The crystal throne of the Elon had been designed to capture and amplify light from 3 different suns, creating a display of refracted beauty that had intimidated ambassadors and inspired poets for over 1,000 cycles. But Queen Saralyn barely noticed the rainbow patterns playing across the crystalline walls as she sat vigil beside her daughter's resting chamber, her own bioluminescent skin dim with exhaustion and despair. Princess Caliph lay motionless in the specialized support framework that had become both her sanctuary and her prison, her lower crystalline formations as still and unresponsive as carved stone. The framework itself was a masterpiece of ethereal bioengineering, designed to support her upper body while providing gentle stimulation to prevent deterioration of her inactive matrix structures. But for all its elegant functionality, it remained a constant reminder of everything her daughter would never be able to do. "The harmonic resonance therapy shows no improvement, Your Majesty," reported Chief Healer Thisera, her crystalline appendages dimming with professional disappointment. "We have attempted every frequency combination within safe parameters. The neural pathways remain completely severed." Queen Saralyn had heard variations of this report dozens of times over the past 10 cycles, each one carrying the same underlying message: there was nothing more that ethereal medicine could do for her daughter. Matrix severance was considered the cruelest of genetic conditions, one that left the victim's mind fully intact while trapping them in a body that could no longer respond to their will. "What about the biocrystalline integration therapy that the healers from Valdris suggested?" the Queen asked, though her voice carried little hope. "We attempted that approach 6 months ago, Your Majesty. The foreign crystalline elements were rejected by the princess's matrix within hours. Her body simply will not accept implants designed for other subspecies of our people." Caliph stirred slightly, her upper body shifting in the support framework as consciousness returned from whatever dreams still came to those whose bodies had forgotten how to move. Her eyes, brilliant faceted gems that reflected intelligence and spirit that her condition couldn't touch, focused on her mother with the patient acceptance that broke Saralyn's heart daily. "Good morning, Mother," she said in harmonics that carried forced cheerfulness. "Are we discussing my treatment options again? Because I have some fascinating new theories about accepting reality and moving forward with dignity." The bitter humor in her daughter's voice was almost harder to bear than tears would have been. Caliph had stopped crying about her condition cycles ago, replacing grief with a sardonic acceptance that suggested she'd given up hope long before her healers had. "Caliph, my star heart, we must continue exploring possibilities. Mother, I'm 15 cycles old and I've never walked. I've never danced. I've never experienced the joy of movement that defines what we are as a people. The other young ones treat me with careful politeness, but they can't hide their discomfort around someone so broken." "You are not broken," Queen Saralyn said fiercely. "You are perfect in every way that matters. Your intelligence exceeds that of scholars twice your age. Your wisdom would humble counselors who've spent lifetimes in service to our people. Your spirit." "My spirit doesn't change the fact that I can't feel anything below my mid-matrix junction," Caliph interrupted gently. "I appreciate your faith, Mother, but perhaps it's time to focus on what I can do rather than dwelling on what I cannot." Chief Healer Thisera's harmonics shifted to patterns of uncomfortable notification. "Your Majesty, there is one more possibility that we have not yet explored, though I confess I have little confidence in its potential." "Speak it." The human medical research team currently studying ethereal physiology on Station Harmony has requested permission to examine the princess. Their leader, a Dr. Amanda Foster, claims that human surgical techniques might offer solutions that our harmonic healing methods cannot achieve. The silence that followed was heavy with cultural implications. Ethereal healing had evolved over millions of cycles into an elegant art form that worked through resonance, harmony, and biocrystalline manipulation. Human medicine, by contrast, was considered crude and invasive, effective for their own primitive biology but utterly inappropriate for the refined physiological systems of evolved crystalline beings. Humans, Queen Saralyn said slowly, who solved medical problems by cutting into bodies with metal implements. The same humans, Thisera confirmed, her disapproval evident in her dimmed luminescence. Their approach to healing involves physical intervention rather than harmonic adjustment. It is, unseemly. Kalitha's reaction was immediate and surprising. I want to meet them. Daughter. Mother, I have endured every elegant, sophisticated, harmonic treatment that our civilization can provide. I have been examined by healers from 16 different worlds, all of whom have pronounced my condition incurable using proper methods. Perhaps it's time to try improper methods. The risk. What risk? The risk that I might end up unable to walk. The risk that I might be condemned to spend my life in a support framework, watching everyone else dance through the air while I remain motionless. Kalitha's harmonics carried the sharp edge of desperate humor. Those risks have already been realized, Mother. At this point, I have nothing left to lose. Queen Saralyn looked at her daughter. Brilliant, frustrated, trapped in a body that had betrayed her through no fault of her own, and felt something shift in her understanding of acceptable risks. For 10 cycles, she had pursued the most sophisticated treatments available, following the protocols that befitted royal status and species dignity. All of them had failed. Chief Healer, arrange for the human medical team to visit the palace. I want a full consultation with this Dr. Foster. Your Majesty, the cultural implications. The cultural implications of seeking help from humans are less important than the practical implications of doing nothing, the Queen said firmly. My daughter deserves every possible chance at the life she should have been able to live. Thisra's bioluminescence shifted to patterns that indicated grudging compliance mixed with profound disapproval. As you wish, Your Majesty. Though I feel compelled to note that human medicine's success with their own species does not guarantee similar results with ethereal physiology. Noted and understood, Queen Saralyn replied. Schedule the consultation for tomorrow. After the chief healer departed, mother and daughter sat in comfortable silence, watching the light patterns play across the crystal walls while both contemplated the possibility that desperation might lead to solutions that wisdom had failed to provide. Mother, Kalith said softly, do you really believe that humans might be able to help where our own healers have failed? Queen Saralyn looked at her daughter's face, seeing hope carefully controlled but unmistakably present for the first time in cycles. I believe that love makes all things possible, and that sometimes the answer comes from unexpected directions. If human medicine can give you even the smallest chance of movement, then human medicine deserves our consideration. Even if it means abandoning proper healing methods for crude surgical intervention. Especially then, the Queen said, taking her daughter's hand. Because proper methods have left you trapped, and crude methods might set you free. The next morning would bring visitors who approached healing through entirely different principles than any ethereal had ever considered. But that night, for the first time in months, both Queen and Princess fell asleep with something that resembled hope. Dr. Amanda Foster had examined enough spinal cord injuries to recognize the familiar combination of hope and desperation in a parent's eyes, but she'd never seen it refracted through crystalline features that shifted color with emotional intensity. Queen Saralyn's bioluminescence flickered between pale anxiety and warm determination as she led the human medical team through corridors that seemed to grow from living gemstones rather than constructed materials. Dr. Foster, the Queen said, her harmonics carefully modulated to hide the strain of speaking standard Galactic rather than her native crystalline language, I must warn you that our healers are skeptical of human medical approaches. They view surgical intervention as primitive and potentially dangerous to ethereal physiology. That's understandable, Amanda replied, adjusting her medical scanner to account for the unusual electromagnetic properties of the crystalline architecture around them. Most species find our techniques crude until they see the results. The important thing is whether your daughter is willing to work with us. Princess Kalith was smaller than Amanda had expected, her upper body demonstrating the graceful proportions typical of ethereal nobility while her lower crystalline formations remained motionless in their support framework. But her eyes, multifaceted and brilliant, held an intelligence that immediately put Amanda at ease. Your Majesty, Amanda said with a slight bow that she hoped conveyed appropriate respect, I'm Dr. Amanda Foster. I specialize in treating conditions where the nervous system can't properly communicate with the rest of the body. Dr. Foster, Kalith replied, her harmonics carrying curiosity rather than the resignation Amanda had expected. I understand that human medicine involves cutting people open and rearranging their internal structures. This sounds either terrifying or fascinating, depending on one's perspective. Amanda laughed, surprised by the princess's directness. That's probably the most accurate description of surgery I've ever heard. Though we prefer to think of it as precision biological engineering, rather than cutting people open and rearranging things. The end result is the same, isn't it? True. But the intent is to fix what's broken rather than simply rearrange what's working. Amanda began unpacking her diagnostic equipment, noting how the crystalline walls seemed to respond to the electromagnetic emissions from her scanners. May I ask what you understand about your condition? Matrix severance. The neural pathways that should connect my upper consciousness matrix to my lower mobility structures were severed during development. Our healers can detect the gap but cannot bridge it using harmonic resonance techniques. Amanda activated her neural activity scanner, watching patterns appear on the display that were unlike anything she'd seen before. Your neural patterns are fascinating. The basic structure is remarkably similar to human neurology, but the signal transmission occurs through crystalline structures rather than biological tissue. Is that significant? It might be revolutionary, Amanda said, adjusting her equipment to get clearer readings. Human spinal cord injuries involve damage to biological tissue that can't regenerate. But your condition seems to involve intact crystalline pathways that simply aren't connecting properly. Queen Saralyn moved closer, her bioluminescence brightening with interest. You can see the neural pathways directly. Not only see them, but measure the signal strength and identify exactly where transmission is being interrupted. Amanda pointed to patterns on her scanner display. Look here, your daughter's upper neural matrix is generating perfectly normal signals. They're traveling down the crystalline pathways until they reach this junction point, where they encounter what appears to be a structural gap. Our healers have identified that gap for cycles, the Queen said. They have been unable to bridge it using any known technique. That's because they're trying to bridge it with energy rather than matter, Amanda explained, her excitement growing as she studied the readings. The gap isn't just a break in signal transmission, it's a physical discontinuity in the crystalline matrix. You need an actual bridge, not just harmonic resonance. Princess Kalitha's bioluminescence shifted to patterns that Amanda interpreted as skeptical interest. And humans know how to build bridges inside living bodies. We build bridges inside living bodies all the time. Neural implants, artificial joints, organ replacements, the human body is remarkably adaptable to carefully designed foreign materials. Amanda paused, realizing the enormous implications of what she was suggesting. Though I've never attempted anything like this with ethereal physiology. What would such a procedure involve? Queen Saralyn asked. Microsurgical implantation of biocompatible neural bridges designed to integrate with crystalline structures rather than biological tissue. The theory is solid, but the practical application would require collaboration between human surgical techniques and ethereal bioengineering. You're proposing to put foreign objects inside my daughter's body. I'm proposing to give your daughter the functional neural connections she should have been born with, Amanda corrected gently. The foreign objects would be designed specifically for her physiology and intended to become permanent parts of her nervous system. Kalith was quiet for a long moment, her crystalline features reflecting the medical equipment's lights in complex patterns. Dr. Foster, what are the risks? Amanda appreciated the directness of the question. Honest answer. I don't know. I've never performed this type of surgery on an ethereal, so I can't give you the statistical analysis I provide for a human patient. The basic risks would include infection, rejection of the implants, and potential damage to existing neural pathways. And the potential benefits? Full restoration of neural connectivity between your upper and lower matrix structures. In human terms, that would mean regaining sensation and voluntary control throughout your entire body. You're saying I might be able to walk again? I'm saying that based on what I can see in these scans, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to walk, dance, or do anything else that requires lower body coordination. Amanda studied the princess's face, trying to read expressions and features that shifted between crystalline angles and bioluminescent patterns. But I want to be clear. This would be experimental surgery with unknown risks performed by someone who's never worked with your species before. But you believe it could work? Amanda looked at the neural pathway scans, seeing clear evidence of intact structures that simply needed proper connection. I believe it should work. The anatomy is there, the neural signals are there, and the gap is bridgeable using techniques we've perfected for similar conditions in humans. Queen Saralyn's bioluminescence flickered through rapid emotional changes. Doctor, you're offering hope after cycles of despair. But you're also asking us to trust our daughter's life to techniques that our healers consider dangerous and inappropriate. I'm asking you to consider that sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected directions, Amanda replied. Your healers are brilliant at what they do, but they're approaching this problem with tools that aren't designed for structural repair. It's like trying to rebuild a bridge using only music, beautiful in theory, but not effective for solid engineering. Kalitha's laugh was musical and surprisingly joyful. Dr. Foster, I like your analogies. They're refreshingly direct after cycles of hearing about harmonic resonance and matrix optimization. Medical school teaches you to explain complex concepts using simple comparisons. Though I've never had to explain neural bridges to crystalline royalty before. How would you explain it to crystalline royalty? Amanda grinned. Your nervous system is like a beautiful song that gets interrupted by silence right in the middle. We want to add the missing notes so the melody can continue from beginning to end. And this would involve cutting into my crystalline matrix and inserting foreign materials. This would involve precision microsurgery to install carefully engineered components that would become part of your natural neural system, Amanda corrected. Less, cutting and inserting foreign materials and more, completing the connection that should have formed naturally. Princess Kalith was quiet again, her bioluminescence shifting through thoughtful patterns while her mother waited with obvious tension. Dr. Foster, she said finally, when could we attempt this procedure? Queen Saralyn's startled flash of light filled the chamber. Kalith, you cannot make such a decision without proper consideration. Mother, I have spent 15 cycles considering my condition. I have explored every option that our civilization can provide. Dr. Foster is offering me the first realistic possibility of improvement I've ever encountered. The princess turned her attention back to Amanda. What would you need to prepare for such surgery? Detailed analysis of ethereal neural biochemistry, collaboration with your bioengineers to design compatible implants, and extensive simulation to perfect the surgical approach. Probably 3 to 4 months of preparation. And the surgery itself? Approximately 8 to 12 hours, performed under the most sterile conditions we can achieve. Success probability? Amanda considered the question carefully. Based on similar procedures in humans, and assuming we can properly adapt the techniques for ethereal physiology, I'd estimate 60 to 70% chance of significant improvement, with 20% chance of no change and 10 to 20% chance of complications. Those odds are better than the 0% chance of improvement that traditional methods offer, Kalith said with crystalline determination. I want to proceed. Queen Saralyn's bioluminescence dimmed to patterns that suggested she was fighting between hope and terror for her daughter's life. Dar. Foster, she said slowly, if we agree to this procedure, you would be attempting something that has never been done before, using techniques that our medical establishment considers dangerous, with the life of our realm's heir at stake. Yes, Your Majesty. That's an accurate summary. And you believe the risks are justified? Amanda looked at Princess Kalith, seeing in her crystalline features the same desperate hope she'd witnessed in countless human patients who faced similar choices between dangerous treatment and permanent disability. I believe that your daughter deserves the chance to live the life she was meant to have, she said quietly. And I believe that sometimes the greatest risk is doing nothing at all. The Ethereal Medical Council chamber resonated with harmonic tension as the most respected healers in 3-star systems debated the unprecedented proposal that had divided their profession down crystalline lines. Chief Healer Thisra's bioluminescence pulsed with controlled outrage as she addressed the assembly, her words carrying the weight of ancient tradition and professional pride. The human suggests that our healing methods, perfected over millions of cycles, are inadequate for treating one of our own people, she declared, her harmonics shifting to frequencies that made the crystalline walls themselves vibrate. She proposes to violate the sacred integrity of Princess Kalitha's matrix by inserting foreign biological devices directly into neural pathways that have remained pure since the dawn of our civilization. Dar. Amanda Foster sat in the designated section for non-ethereal observers, watching bioluminescent patterns flicker through the assembly like visual arguments she couldn't fully interpret. The debate had raged for hours, with roughly half the healers supporting the innovative approach while the other half viewed it as medical heresy that could endanger both patient and cultural values. With respect, Chief Healer called out bioengineer Valix from the progressive faction, our traditional methods have provided exactly zero improvement in Princess Kalitha's condition despite a decade of sophisticated treatment. Perhaps it is time to acknowledge that some problems require solutions that exist outside our established protocols. Are you suggesting that we abandon the principles that define ethereal medicine in favor of crude surgical intervention? I'm suggesting that we adapt our principles to include techniques that might actually help our patients rather than simply maintaining the aesthetic elegance of our failures. Amanda had been warned that ethereal medical philosophy emphasized harmony, balance, and non-invasive intervention as expressions of their species' evolved sophistication. The idea of surgical implants violated fundamental assumptions about proper healing that went beyond mere medical technique into the realm of cultural identity. Queen Saralyn rose from her position of honor, her royal authority evident in the immediate silence that followed her movement. Honored healers, she said, her harmonics carrying both diplomatic neutrality and maternal desperation, we are not debating abstract medical philosophy. We are discussing my daughter's only chance at the life she deserves to live. Your Majesty, Thisra replied respectfully but firmly, the risks of this experimental procedure could worsen the princess's condition beyond any possibility of traditional treatment. We could lose not just the opportunity for surgical success, but any chance of helping her through established methods. What established methods? The question came from Princess Kalitha herself, who had chosen to attend the debate despite the political implications of a patient advocating for her own controversial treatment. Chief Healer, you have attempted every established method available to our civilization. All of them have failed to provide even marginal improvement in my condition. Your Highness, medicine requires patience. I have been patient for 15 cycles, Kalitha interrupted, her bioluminescence flashing with uncharacteristic intensity. I have endured harmonic treatments, resonance therapies, matrix adjustments, and crystalline interventions that would challenge the patience of carved stone. At what point does patience become surrender? The chamber fell silent as the assembled healers contemplated the princess's words. Amanda found herself moved by the young woman's courage in facing down medical authorities who had essentially given up on her case while maintaining the pretense of ongoing treatment. Dr. Foster, called out Healer Scythen from the moderate faction, perhaps you could explain your proposed procedure in terms that address our specific concerns about biological contamination and matrix integrity. Amanda stood, grateful for the opportunity to speak after hours of listening to debates about her competence conducted in languages she could only partially follow. Honored healers, I understand your concerns about introducing foreign elements into Princess Kalitha's neural matrix. But the implants I'm proposing wouldn't be foreign to her system, they would be bioengineered specifically for integration with ethereal crystalline structures. Using human surgical techniques, Thisra pointed out. Using the most precise surgical techniques available from any species, adapted for ethereal physiology through collaboration with your own bioengineers, Amanda corrected. This wouldn't be human medicine imposed on an ethereal patient. It would be interspecies medical cooperation designed to achieve results that neither of our approaches could accomplish alone. And if the procedure fails? Then Princess Kalitha will be in the same condition she's in now, but will have gained invaluable knowledge about interspecies neural surgery that could help countless other patients in the future, Amanda replied honestly. But if it succeeds, we'll have proven that collaboration between different medical philosophies can achieve what traditional methods cannot. Bioengineer Valix's bioluminescence brightened with scientific curiosity. Dr. Foster, what specific biocompatibility measures would you implement to ensure proper integration between human-designed implants and ethereal neural matrices? The implants would be grown using hybrid biocrystalline techniques that incorporate both human neural interface technology and ethereal matrix harmonics. They would be designed to become permanent parts of the princess's nervous system rather than foreign objects that require tolerance. You're proposing to create entirely new biotechnology for this single procedure. I'm proposing to advance the entire field of interspecies medicine by developing techniques that could revolutionize treatment options for previously incurable conditions affecting multiple species, Amanda said, her enthusiasm for the challenge evident despite the formal setting. Queen Saralyn's harmonics carried diplomatic authority as she addressed the assembly. Dr. Foster has provided detailed specifications for the proposed implants, surgical procedures, and post-operative monitoring. 3 of our most respected bioengineers have reviewed her plans and found them technically sound, if unprecedented. Technically sound and medically ethical are different considerations, Thisera replied. We have a responsibility to preserve the princess's current condition rather than risk worsening it through experimental procedures. We have a responsibility to help the princess achieve her full potential rather than resign ourselves to managing her limitations, countered Valix. Princess Calith rose from her support framework with the assistance of mobility aids that emphasized rather than concealed her condition. Honored healers, with respect for your wisdom and gratitude for your efforts on my behalf, I must point out that this decision ultimately belongs to me rather than to medical committees or royal protocols. The chamber's bioluminescent activity dimmed to respectful attention as the princess continued. I am 15 cycles old and have never experienced the simple joy of walking through our crystal gardens or dancing with others of my age. I have spent my entire life watching everyone else move freely through the world while I remain motionless and dependent on support systems. Her harmonics carried determination that had been shaped by years of frustrated longing. Dr. Foster offers me the first realistic possibility of change I have ever encountered. The risks are significant, but they are my risks to accept or decline. Your Highness, Thisera said gently, the decision to undergo experimental surgery will affect not just your personal welfare but the political stability of our realm and the reputation of ethereal medical science. Then perhaps it's time for both our realm and our medical science to demonstrate that we value progress over tradition when the two conflict, Calith replied. I want to attempt this procedure. Queen Saralyn's bioluminescence shifted to patterns that conveyed both pride in her daughter's courage and terror at the risks she was choosing to accept. Dr. Foster, if the medical council approves this procedure, what timeline would you require for preparation? 4 months for implant development and surgical planning, followed by the procedure itself, followed by approximately 6 months of rehabilitation and adjustment, Amanda replied. Assuming everything goes according to plan. And if things don't go according to plan? Then we'll adapt our approach based on what we learn, because that's what medicine requires, the willingness to adjust methods based on results rather than abandoning patients when initial treatments fail. The vote, when it finally came, was closer than Amanda had expected, 18 healers in favor of approving the experimental procedure, 15 opposed, and 7 abstentions that suggested profound uncertainty about unprecedented medical territory. Chief Healer Thisera's bioluminescence dimmed to patterns of resigned acceptance. The medical council approves the proposed procedure, with the understanding that Dr. Foster accepts full responsibility for any adverse outcomes and that this approval does not constitute endorsement of human medical philosophy over traditional ethereal healing methods. Understood and accepted, Amanda replied, though she privately suspected that successful completion of the surgery would influence ethereal medical philosophy regardless of official disclaimers. Princess Calith's crystalline features lit up with the first genuine joy Amanda had seen from her. Dr. Foster, when do we begin? Tomorrow, Amanda said with a smile that felt like making a promise to the universe. Tomorrow we start building bridges that will give you back the life you should have had all along. The chamber emptied gradually, leaving Amanda alone with the realization that she had just committed herself to performing surgery that would either revolutionize interspecies medicine or end her career in spectacular failure. Either way, she thought, it was going to be interesting. The surgical chamber had been transformed into something that existed nowhere else in the galaxy, a fusion of human precision and ethereal artistry that looked more like a crystalline cathedral than a medical facility. Bioluminescent monitoring systems grew from the walls like living jewelry, while Amanda's surgical equipment occupied precisely calibrated positions that accommodated both species' technological requirements. For months of preparation had produced miracles of bioengineering that pushed the boundaries of what either species thought possible. The neural implants waiting in their sterile containers represented a fusion of human neural interface technology and ethereal crystalline matrices, designed to integrate seamlessly with Princess Kalitha's unique physiology. Nervous, asked bioengineer Valix, whose decision to collaborate on the project had cost him considerable professional standing among traditional healers. Terrified, Amanda admitted, reviewing the surgical procedures one final time. But the good kind of terrified, the kind that means you're about to attempt something that really matters. Princess Kalith lay on the surgical platform with remarkable composure for someone about to undergo 12 hours of experimental neurosurgery. Her bioluminescence remained steady and calm, though Amanda suspected that took considerable effort. "Dr. Foster," she said quietly, "I want you to know that regardless of the outcome, I'm grateful for this opportunity. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm moving toward possibility rather than resignation." "We're going to give you more than possibility," Amanda replied, checking the implant compatibility readings one final time. "We're going to give you freedom." Queen Saralyn had chosen to observe the procedure from the monitoring chamber, where she could watch without interfering but remain close enough to provide support if needed. Her bioluminescence had been flickering between anxiety and determination for hours. The surgery itself unfolded like a delicate dance between precision and innovation. Amanda worked with microscopic instruments to access neural pathways that had never been approached through surgical intervention, while Valix monitored crystalline matrix stability and 3 other ethereal bioengineers tracked harmonic resonances to ensure the patient's overall biological integrity. "First implant integration successful," Amanda announced after 2 hours of meticulous work. "Neural signal transmission is showing immediate improvement." The monitoring displays erupted with activity as Princess Kalitha's lower neural pathways began receiving signals from her upper consciousness matrix for the first time since her early development. The readings were unlike anything any of them had seen before, not quite human neural activity, not quite traditional ethereal patterns, but something entirely new. "Kalith," Amanda said softly, "can you try to move your lower crystalline formations?" The response was subtle but unmistakable, a slight shifting in the princess's lower body that represented the first voluntary movement she had achieved in over a decade. The monitoring chamber erupted in harmonics of amazement as Queen Saralyn witnessed her daughter's body responding to her will. "I can feel it," Kalith whispered, her bioluminescence flashing with wonder and disbelief. "I can actually feel sensation in my lower matrix. It's beautiful." The remaining 10 hours of surgery proceeded with increasing success as Amanda implanted additional neural bridges and Valix fine-tuned their integration with existing crystalline structures. By the time they reached the final connections, Princess Kalith was demonstrating voluntary control throughout her entire body. "Final neural pathway integration complete," Amanda announced, exhausted but exhilarated. "All implants are functioning within optimal parameters. Motor function appears to be fully restored," Valix added, his bioluminescence bright with scientific triumph. "Neural signal transmission is actually superior to normal ethereal baseline readings." "Superior how?" Queen Saralyn asked from the monitoring chamber. "The hybrid biocrystalline implants are processing signals more efficiently than pure ethereal neural matrices. Princess Kalitha's neural response time and motor coordination are enhanced beyond typical parameters." Amanda helped Princess Kalith sit up slowly, watching for any signs of complications or discomfort. "How do you feel?" "Like I've been sleeping my entire life and just woke up," Kalith replied, her harmonics carrying joy that seemed to resonate through the crystalline walls. "Everything feels more sensation, more awareness, more connection to my own body. Ready to try standing?" The moment when Princess Caliph placed her feet on the floor and supported her own weight for the first time in her life was one that everyone present would remember forever. Her movements were tentative at first, then increasingly confident as muscle memory that had never been able to develop finally found expression. "I'm standing," she said in wonder, then louder, "I'm actually standing." Her first steps were careful and deliberate, but each one demonstrated improving coordination and strength. By the time she reached her mother, who had rushed from the monitoring chamber, Princess Caliph was walking with grace that suggested her body had simply been waiting for the proper neural connections to express its natural potential. Queen Saraline's embrace of her daughter was luminous with tears that refracted through their crystalline features like captured rainbows. "My star heart, you're beautiful in motion." "Dar." "Foster," Caliph said, turning to face the human surgeon who had given her freedom, "how can I possibly thank you for this gift?" "By living the life you were meant to live," Amanda replied, watching the princess experiment with movements that ranged from simple walking to complex balance exercises. "By proving that collaboration between different species can achieve miracles that neither could accomplish alone." 6 months later, Amanda stood in the crystal gardens of the Elon, watching Princess Caliph perform the traditional dance of joy that celebrated major life transitions in ethereal culture. Her movements combined natural ethereal grace with enhanced coordination and strength that made her dancing unlike anything their civilization had ever seen. "The integration continues to exceed all projections," bioengineer Valix reported, his professional triumph evident in bioluminescent patterns that painted the garden walls with shifting colors. Princess Caliph's hybrid neural system has inspired 17 additional patients to request similar procedures. And the Medical Council's position on human surgical techniques? Rapidly evolving toward acceptance, particularly after the princess's public demonstration that collaborative medicine produces superior results to traditional methods alone. Amanda smiled, watching Caliph execute a series of aerial maneuvers that would have been impossible for pure ethereal physiology. "What about Chief Healer Thisra's concerns about biological contamination?" "She's requested training in human surgical techniques," Valix admitted with crystalline humor. Apparently, seeing Princess Caliph's enhancement has convinced her that contamination might be another word for improvement. Princess Caliph approached them after completing her dance, moving with fluid grace that suggested motion was as natural as breathing. "Dar. Foster, the Council of Worlds has formally requested that you establish an interspecies medical training program here on the Elon. They want me to teach ethereal healers human surgical techniques. They want you to help us develop medical approaches that combine the best of both our philosophies," Caliph corrected. "The fusion techniques that gave me my freedom could help countless others across multiple species." Amanda looked around the crystal gardens, where human and ethereal medical students now work together on research projects that would have been impossible before one stubborn surgeon had insisted that different didn't mean incompatible. "What would you call such a program?" she asked. "The Caliph Institute for Collaborative Medicine," Queen Saraline announced, approaching with the formal bearing that indicated official royal business. "Named for the patient whose courage made it possible, and dedicated to the principle that healing transcends species barriers." "I'm honored," Amanda said, then paused as she noticed Princess Caliph's expression. "What aren't you telling me?" "The formal announcement includes your appointment as the Institute's first director, with the title of Healer of Bridges," Caliph said with a smile that lit up her crystalline features. "It's a position that's never existed before, for someone who builds connections that others thought impossible." Amanda watched ethereal and human medical students collaborate on projects that pushed the boundaries of what either species had thought achievable, their work guided by principles that valued innovation over tradition and results over procedure. "Healer of Bridges," she mused. "I like the sound of that. Then you'll accept." Amanda looked at Princess Caliph, whose enhanced abilities and infectious enthusiasm had already begun inspiring other young ethereals to consider possibilities beyond traditional limitations. The girl who had been told she would never walk was now literally dancing through life with grace that redefined what was possible. "I accept," she said, "on one condition." "Which is?" That the first requirement for every student in the program is to understand that the most important surgical tool is the willingness to see patients as people who deserve every chance at the life they were meant to live. Princess Kalitha's bioluminescence exploded into patterns of pure joy. Dr. Foster, I think that's the best medical philosophy I've ever heard. Just call me Amanda, she replied, watching the sunset paint rainbow patterns through the crystal gardens while human and ethereal minds worked together to heal what had once been considered broken beyond repair. After all, we're going to be colleagues for a very long time. The evening light caught Princess Kalitha's movements as she spontaneously began another dance, this one celebrating not just her own freedom but the endless possibilities that opened when different worlds chose cooperation over isolation. And Amanda Foster, healer of bridges, watched and smiled and planned the next impossible surgery that would prove once again that stubborn faith could overcome any obstacle, especially when it was guided by the simple truth that everyone deserved a chance to dance.